Straight ahead, political pushback. Dallas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett faces a censure resolution after calling Governor Abbott Governor Hot Wheels. The Texas Republican who filed it explains why he's taking a stand. Starting early, Senator John Cornyn kicks off his 2026 re-election campaign with a video starring President Trump. We look at what's behind the move and the potential primary battle against Attorney General Ken Paxton. Tesla Takedown. Members of Congress sound off on the vandalism and violence at Tesla dealerships and about Elon Musk's controversial cutbacks at the federal government. Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Jack Fink. Get your fix for Texas politics. Eye on Politics starts now. Hello and welcome to Eye on Politics. Hope you're having a great weekend. We begin with the political pushback against Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Dallas. She could be censured in the House this week after calling Greg Abbott Governor Hot Wheels.
Y'all just pray for me, because who knows what I'm going to end up saying.
That's how Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Dallas began her speech Saturday before the Human Rights Campaign. Minutes later, she made the remarks that have made national headlines.
As we in these hot Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot mess, honey.
How are you doing?
Good.
Governor Abbott responded in an interview with Sean Hannity on Fox News Channel.
It's another day and another disaster by the Democrats. The reality is they have no vision, no policy. They have nothing to sell but hate.
Republican Congressman Randy Weber from Texas's Gulf Coast filed a censure resolution against Crockett Wednesday. And Weber posted on X, quote, "She must be censured and held accountable for the venomous rhetoric she spews as a representative of the Democratic Party." In a posting on X Tuesday, Crockett said, quote, "I wasn't thinking about the governor's condition. I was thinking about the planes, trains, and automobiles he used to transfer migrants into communities led by black mayors, deliberately stoking tension and fear among the most vulnerable." We spoke with Crockett's fellow Texas Democratic Congressman Greg Abbott of Austin and Congressman Randy Weber, the Republican from the Texas Gulf Coast, who filed the censure resolution. We'll start with Weber, who explains why he believes his censure resolution is so important.
It's unfathomable to me that anybody would call any other member, whether it was a member, a congressman, whether it was a governor, whether lieutenant governor, whoever it might be, a Hot Wheels or a hot mess. Those are, especially at the human rights seminar she was at, those kinds of comments. When I was growing up, Jack, my mother had a policy. If you said something bad or wrong, she washed your mouth out with soap. And I don't know if Jasmine's mother did her that way, but sometimes you have to know that you just can't denigrate people like she did.
Do you know when there will be a vote set for this, and do you see this passing?
Well, we just filed it today. People will be signing on to it, and we haven't, so we don't have a count. Tomorrow is what we call our fly out day. So we won't be here tomorrow. We'll come back next week. So we'll see what happens. You saw what happened with Al Green in the State of the Union, where he was trying to talk over the president. Not once, not twice, but three times, warned by Speaker Johnson 3 times before they finally took him out. If you look at the video, you'll see me get him out of here, if you look at that video. And so there should be some decency for the United States House of Representatives. When we start calling each other names or other elected official names, God help us. We've got to put a stop to this. And that's the reason I filed this. And it doesn't matter whether it's Republican or whether it's Democrats, if they're calling each other names like that, calling them out in public, there's no place for it.
What do you say to those who say, aren't there better things to file a resolution on?
Well, absolutely. We have our work cut out to it, and we are focused on that work. And you make a good point, because the last thing we need are discrepancies like this, or somebody says that kind of stuff and actually changes the focus on what we're trying to do.
Well, first of all, she knows she shouldn't have said that, and we shouldn't talk about anybody's disabilities that way. Now, as it relates to having a floor vote in the United States Congress over her comments, look, we should be focusing on the issues that matter to most Americans. And if you ask about the issues that matter to Americans with disabilities, we should be having House floor votes to protect Social Security that Elon Musk and House Republicans are threatening to cut. Social Security is a lifeline to Americans and Texans with disabilities. The Republicans just passed a budget to end Medicaid as we know it. Medicaid is the biggest provider of health care to Americans with disabilities that so badly need it. And when we talk about our kids, all of our kids, but especially kids with disabilities, the Department of Education is the department that makes sure that our public schools can actually serve kids with disabilities. And President Trump just signed an executive order trying to eliminate the Department of Education.
President Trump has maintained he will not cut Social Security benefits, and Republican members of Congress have told me they do support removing able-bodied people from being on Medicaid, but they said they are not cutting Medicaid for the poor, disabled, or pregnant women. When a member of Congress is censured, they are not punished in any other way and remain full voting members of Congress. Now to another big political story this past week. Senator John Cornyn has launched his re-election campaign nearly 1 year before the primary, with the potential for Attorney General Ken Paxton challenging him in the GOP primary. Cornyn's campaign video emphasizes his support for President Trump.
In President Trump's first term, he made America great.
Senator Cornyn says he helped pass the president's agenda the first term and will do so again now.
And we're especially grateful to your wonderful senators, John Cornyn and Ted Cruz.
Now I'm running for re-election and asking for your support so President Trump and I can pick up where we left off.
After Cornyn released this video, the Attorney General fired off this post on X saying, quote, "You've constantly turned your back on Texans and President Trump, including trying to stop his campaign in 2024 and saying his time has passed him by." The Dallas Morning News reports former Democratic Congressman Colin Allred from Dallas is now seriously considering running against Cornyn. Allred lost to Senator Ted Cruz in November by 9 points. Responding to a potential Allred campaign, Cornyn posted this on X, quote, "Come and take it, Colin." Allred fired back saying, quote, "Good luck with your primary, John." Conservative political consultant Matt Makoviak tells why Cornyn is launching his re-election bid so early.
It's happening now because these Senate seats are valuable. And I think in Attorney General Paxton's view, he thinks Senator Cornyn is vulnerable to a primary. I think Senator Cornyn recognizes that the only way to run for re-election is to run scared. You're either unopposed or you're scared. And there's a reason he's never been defeated in any election he's ever run in, and he's always had primary challenges. I do think
had a primary challenge like Ken Paxton, right?
No, that's right.
If that happens, then you're going to see a dynamic back in like what we saw in 2010 when then Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison challenged Governor Rick Perry in a primary.
That's right. And I didn't work on Senator Hutchison's governor campaign. I was her press secretary in the U.S. Senate right before that, before she announced she was running for governor. So I'm quite familiar with that election, that dynamic. And you're right that there might be a somewhat similar dynamic. I think part of what's different is that Cornyn's voting record is 92% with Trump. And so it's probably not a perfect analogy. But you're right. I mean, if Paxton were to challenge Cornyn, it would be the most serious primary he's ever faced, period, full stop. I do think Paxton has a couple hurdles. The first is what is Trump going to do? Is President Trump going to endorse Paxton? Is he going to endorse Cornyn? Is he not going to endorse at all? Those are the three choices. And I suspect he won't make a decision until later this year, if he makes a decision at all. Two is sometimes people who run for state office don't understand how hard it is to raise money at the federal level. You have hard caps on individual contributions. I believe the cap is $3,500 this cycle, which may sound like a lot, but I assure you, when you need to go raise $20, $30, $40, $50 million for a competitive two-way primary, you're going to have thousands of people max out in addition to small dollar contributors in a significant level. Whether Attorney General Paxton can do that or not, I think is a huge question. Senator Cornyn definitely can do that. Senator Cornyn is going to have all the money he needs, period, full stop. It wouldn't surprise me if Attorney General Paxton announces an exploratory committee soon, which would allow him to raise money, travel, hire staff, do polling, perhaps solicit some endorsements from some activists.
His video that he put out launching his re-election bid is very Trump-centric.
Sure. Yeah, look, I mean, President Trump is not just the strongest endorsement in the Republican Party today. He's probably the strongest endorsement in the Republican Party in the modern era. I mean, when you just look at what his endorsement does, particularly in Republican primary, it is the most powerful force in politics today, period. And so, Cornyn, I think, has a case to make. He has a story to tell.
When then candidate President Trump got into the race, Senator Cornyn said, it may be time for somebody else. And so how does he get through all that?
Yeah, I mean, this is all going to get litigated, in the race. And if Paxton doesn't challenge Cornyn, someone else will. There's been Congressman Wesley Hunt from Houston's been making some noise. There's some other potential candidates, that will probably look at it. As it relates to Cornyn's record, his past statements, he's going to have to, defend and explain a lot of that. And he's already started. He went on activist Michael Quinn Sullivan's podcast this week and talked about some of this. My memory is that he endorsed President Trump the night of the New Hampshire primary.
We also spoke with Democratic political consultant Matt Engel, who said the current Republican Party has passed Cornyn by.
I think John Cornyn is a dead senator walking. I don't think he can get the Republican nomination the way the Republican Party is made up in Texas now. John Cornyn has a record of pretty much a normal conservative Republican. That doesn't work now. It's going to get him beat. Ken Paxton really reflects the Texas Republican Party now, and that it's corrupt, it's sold out to elites, and it's anti-family. John Cornyn's problem is that he's got a record that is not reflected at all in the current Republican Party. The type of Republican that John Cornyn has been, going back to Kay Bailey Hutchison or people like that, just the notion of that is nostalgia. That Republican Party is dead. Republicans now equal Trump. Trump equals power and corruption. And John Cornyn just can't match Ken Paxton on that record.
And so who would Democrats rather run against? Would they rather run against Senator Cornyn or Ken Paxton?
Well, if for some reason that Cornyn's able to get the nomination, he will have surrendered every shred of dignity that he has. And so he'll be vulnerable to Republican at that point. But certainly, if you're asking me now, I'd rather that we would run against somebody who actually reflects the values or the broken values of the Republican Party, and that would be Ken Paxton.
How would you said before that Senator Cornyn would surrender any shred of dignity that he had? What do you mean by that?
Well, by basically bending the knee and kissing Trump's ring, he really is abandoning what had traditionally been seen as the type of position that Texas leaders take.
Which Democrats do you see running for Senate this seat?
Well, there's any number of Democrats that could run. I don't know if they will. I don't think we'll really know until after the legislative session has ended. But it wouldn't surprise me if Colin Allred takes another look at it. Roland Gutierrez could also take a look at it. I know that a lot of people have talked up, and I'm very impressed, have been since the day he got elected. Nathan Johnson is a state senator out of Dallas. And then also James Tallarico, very talented young state rep out of Austin. All of them, I think, could run a credible race, and there's others too. I don't think with the Democratic Party, we're going to have a problem coming up with a person qualified to run and qualified to serve. The real challenge for Democrats is coming up with the resources that it takes in order to build the organization and to promote our candidate. That's been our real handicap.
Lots of moving parts that may hinge on whether Paxton challenges Cornyn. Still to come, we look at the protests aimed at Tesla and Elon Musk amid vandalism and violence against dealerships and customers' vehicles. When Eye on Politics comes right back. Welcome back to Eye on Politics. Now to the Tesla takedown, the protest planned for yesterday against Elon Musk at his automaker's dealerships nationwide. They come after reports of shots being fired and swastikas being spray painted on Tesla dealerships. Multiple incendiary devices were found at a dealership in Austin, and customers have had their vehicles keyed and vandalized, including one man at DFW International Airport who filed a lawsuit seeking $1 million in damages.
It's kind of mind-boggling to me that there are people that are so triggered and so disturbed by anything these days that they can go so far just to cause harm to somebody.
Both Congressmen Randy Weber and Greg Abbott are among those in Congress who are sounding off on this issue. Abbott traveled to Arizona last week to appear with Vermont Senator and former Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders and New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as part of their Fighting Oligarchy tour. We begin with Abbott, whose district includes the Tesla Gigafactory in East Austin.
Violence and vandalism are wrong, and every Democrat in elected office thinks that folks that commit violence should be held accountable. We also know that there are so many people that have real concerns that they want to express peacefully about Elon Musk firing nuclear safety workers, Elon Musk trying to fire people and their air traffic control system when we know we need planes to be able to fly safely. And so I support people speaking out in a peaceful fashion about how the richest man on earth, who makes $8 million a day in government contracts, should not be able to have so much power without following basic conflict of interest rules. We started this interview talking about Social Security. The average Social Security recipient, after working their entire life, gets $65 a day from the government, while Elon Musk is getting in $8 million a day. So if we want to talk about government efficiency, we should be looking at the big contracts that Elon Musk gets, the big contracts that big pharma and big tech get.
This is the kind of violence and vandalism, I would call it thuggery, that's happening in the United States of America because they don't like the fact that somebody has actually stepped up to the plate and said, remember those three things, we're going to work on eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse. They don't like that. And even in Galveston County, there was an email went around, was it yesterday or today, be at a certain spot because we're going to go to the Tesla dealership and tell them how we hate what they're doing, blah, blah, blah. Remember, a lot of these people are the same ones, Jack, that didn't like gas vehicles, didn't like fossil fuel vehicles. They wanted electric vehicles because, as Chicken Little used to cry, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. And so they don't like gasoline or fossil fuel vehicles. So they pushed for EVs. All right, there was federal money that came out for subsidies for EVs. They got their way. And all of a sudden, because the owner of that EV factory and manufacturing company is helping cut waste, fraud, and abuse, they're going to go and attack his places of business, and also burn people's cars that have the right to be in those cars. They have lost their collective mind. It really is sad.
The Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, website says it has made $130 billion in savings, or about $807 per federal taxpayer. Judges, though, have blocked various planned cutbacks by DOGE. Up next, how the IRS and Homeland Security may team up to locate migrants who may be in the U.S. illegally, when Eye on Politics returns. The IRS is close to a deal to help the Department of Homeland Security to locate migrants accused of being in the U.S. illegally. Sarah Jenkins has this week's brief.
Under the proposed agreement, ICE would send the names and addresses of undocumented immigrants to the IRS. Then the IRS would cross-reference those names with the confidential taxpayer database. Typically, personal taxpayer information is treated as confidential and protected by the IRS. The IRS allows undocumented immigrants to file with individual taxpayer numbers because most are unable to get Social Security numbers. More than half of the roughly 11 million undocumented immigrants in the U.S. file income tax returns to document their payments to the government. If access to this confidential database is agreed upon, it would mark a significant shift, likely becoming the first time immigration officials have relied on the tax system for enforcement assistance.
Thank you, Sarah. And now to the rare sight at the Texas Capitol last week. For the first time in 6 years, the governor, lieutenant governor, and a speaker of the House appeared together at a news conference. The governor said the House was on the cusp of passing school choice, a $1 billion bill that would give tax dollars to as many as 100,000 students to attend private school through what's called education savings accounts. A House committee will likely approve it on Tuesday and send it to the full House after that. Democrats in the House are trying to block school choice and point to the state's own cost estimates that the program could cost about $4 billion a year in 2030. I attended the news conference at the Capitol and asked the governor about this.
Here's what nobody knows. How many people are actually going to participate in it? Is it going to be 100,000? We don't know that. And we won't know that until we get into the system. But again, the cost is going to be limited to only what the Texas legislature appropriates to it, with no automatic increase in future years.
These billions of dollars that we're going to put in the vouchers, that can go back home to save your local schools. But they're not doing that. Instead, they're doing what the billionaires want them to do.
If and when the full House passes the bill, lawmakers there will have to negotiate differences with Texas senators who previously passed their own legislation. And don't forget, you can watch all of our full interviews from our show today on our YouTube channel. Just go to CBS Texas, like, and hit the subscribe button. And that's all for Eye on Politics this week. I'm Jack Fink. I am listening, and we are listening to you at CBS News Texas. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again next week. And from all of us here, have a great day.